The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft orange glow over the crowded market. Aliens from different worlds walked along the narrow paths, each focused on their own tasks. The sounds of strange voices and the buzz of unknown machines filled the air. Jake, a young human boy, tried his best to blend in. His clothes were torn, and his shoes barely stayed on his feet, but he had something more important on his mind: food. He didn't have any money, and the market was full of temptations. He could smell the warm bread and fresh fruits from a stall nearby. His stomach growled loudly. Jake's eyes scanned the area. He noticed the vendor wasn't paying attention. Without thinking, he quickly grabbed a loaf of bread from the stand and stuffed it into his bag. But before he could walk away, a hand grabbed his arm. Jake froze. He looked up and his heart skipped a beat. Standing in front of him was an alien girl. She was tall, with green skin that shimmered in the sunlight, her large eyes glowing with a soft golden light. Her silver hair flowed like water down her back, and her sharp pointed ears twitched as if listening for something. "You've made a mistake," she said softly, her voice calm but firm. Jake's mind raced. He couldn't believe it. This alien girl had caught him. He tried to pull away, but her grip was surprisingly strong. "Let go of me," he hissed, his face turning red. He felt embarrassed and terrified at the same time. Was she going to call the authorities? Was he going to get thrown into prison? But the alien girl didn't move. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him with curiosity. "Why would you steal?" she asked, her voice still calm. "Do humans often steal in this way?" Jake was caught off guard by her question. He had expected anger, maybe even punishment, but instead she seemed curious. He swallowed hard, trying to find the words. "I'm hungry," he muttered. "I didn't mean to, I needed food." The alien girl's golden eyes softened. She glanced down at the loaf of bread in his bag and then back at Jake. "I see," she said. "You are not a thief. By nature. You are simply desperate." Jake stared at her, confused. Was she judging him? He didn't know what to think. She could have easily handed him over to the authorities, but she didn't. Instead, she seemed to understand him in a way he didn't expect. After a long pause, she spoke again. "I won't turn you in," she said. "But if you want this bread, you will have to earn it." Jake blinked. "What do you mean?" The alien girl smiled, showing off sharp teeth. "I will offer you a challenge. If you succeed, you may keep the bread." Jake didn't know what to make of it. A challenge? Was she playing with him? But he was so hungry. He couldn't think of another way to get food, and maybe this would be his only chance. "What's the challenge?" The alien girl stepped back, giving him space. She raised her hand, and suddenly a small device appeared in her palm. It looked like a simple sphere, but it pulsed with energy. "You will race me," she said. "Not in speed, in wit." Jake's confusion deepened. "Wit? What does that mean?" The alien girl chuckled softly. "It means you must outthink me, solve the puzzle faster than I do, and you win." Jake was still unsure, but he had no choice. He nodded. "Okay, I'll try." The alien girl smiled, and her eyes seemed to glimmer with excitement. "Good. We begin now." She tossed the device into the air, and as it floated above them, it split into pieces. Suddenly, strange shapes began to form in midair. It was a puzzle, an alien puzzle that Jake had never seen before. The shapes spun around, twisting and turning in impossible ways. Jake stared at the floating puzzle. His mind raced, trying to make sense of it. He had no idea how to solve something like this, but he had to try. He needed that bread. He looked at the alien girl. She was calm, watching him with a sense of patience. Was she really going to let him try? Was she really going to give him a chance? As the pieces of the puzzle twisted and turned, Jake started to feel a strange sense of determination. He had never faced a challenge like this before, but there was something about her, something in her eyes that made him want to prove himself. He didn't want to seem weak in front of this alien girl. With his mind racing, Jake reached out, trying to connect the floating pieces in a way that made sense. His fingers brushed against one of them, and suddenly, It clicked. The pieces began to snap together. The alien girl raised an eyebrow. "Impressive," she said, though her voice still held the same calm tone. "But can you finish it before I do?" Jake's heart pounded. This was his chance. He focused all his energy on the puzzle, blocking out everything else around him. The floating shapes began to align, and with a final push, everything locked into place. Jake looked up at the alien girl, a sense of triumph filling him. "I did it," he said, his voice shaking with excitement. The alien girl nodded, a small smile curling on her lips. "You have earned your food, human. You are cleverer than you appear." Jake couldn't believe it. He had won. The alien girl handed him the loaf of bread, and as he took it, their eyes met. For a moment, there was silence between them. Jake didn't know what to say, but something inside him told him this wasn't the end. This strange, green-skinned girl wasn't just a mysterious alien. There was something more to her, something he hadn't yet understood. And as he took his first bite of the bread, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was only the beginning of something much bigger. Jake couldn't stop thinking about her. The alien girl with the golden eyes and silver hair, the one who had caught him stealing but then let him go with a challenge instead of punishment. He had never met anyone like her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a cool blue hue over the market, Jake found himself wandering the streets, bread in hand. He hadn't intended to be out this long, but something about that strange encounter made him stay, as though an invisible thread was pulling him back to the market where it had all started. Jake turned the corner, glancing over his shoulder. It was too quiet. The bustling sounds of the market had faded, leaving only the distant hum of alien technology and the soft sounds of footsteps echoing down the alleyways. Then, he saw her again. Zara was standing near an old metal crate, her eyes scanning the area as if she was searching for something or someone. Jake froze. He hadn't expected to run into her again. What was she doing here? Did she want to finish their puzzle challenge? Or was she here to punish him for stealing? "Jake." Her voice was soft but firm, like a whisper from a dream. "I didn't expect you to come back." He didn't know how to answer. His instincts told him to turn and walk away, to leave her behind. But there was something in her voice that made him stay. A curiosity, an invitation. "Why did you help me?" Jake finally asked. The words had been on his tongue since their first meeting, but now they felt more important than ever. Zara looked at him for a long moment. Her golden eyes seemed to look right through him, as if she could see every thought he'd ever had. "I didn't help you because I pity you," she said. "I helped you because I see something in you, something rare." Jake was confused. "What do you mean? I'm just a kid, a human kid." She stepped closer, her eyes locked onto his. "Exactly, you are human, and humans have something that others don't, something powerful." Jake swallowed. The air between them felt heavy, charged with something he couldn't understand. "What are you talking about?" Zara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she gestured for him to follow. "Come with me," she said, turning and walking toward an old abandoned building at the end of the alley. "I will show you." Jake hesitated. This wasn't the world he was used to. Walking into a stranger's world felt dangerous. But then again, everything about Zara felt dangerous. Still, he found himself following her, his curiosity pulling him forward. They reached the building and Zara led him inside. The place was dark, and the air smelled old and stale. But in the center of the room, a glowing blue light pulsed from a strange machine. It hummed softly like it was alive. "Is that some kind of weapon?" Jake asked, his voice a little shaky. Zara shook her head, a small smile tugging at her lips. "No, this is far more than a weapon. It's something that can change the course of everything." She walked to the machine, her fingers brushing against the glowing surface. The light flickered, and suddenly, holographic images appeared above it. They were complex alien patterns Jake didn't recognize. They moved and shifted, creating shapes that seemed impossible to understand. Jake stepped closer, trying to make sense of the images. What is this, some kind of alien tech? Zara's eyes softened. This is a map, Jake. A map to an ancient power hidden deep within the universe. But it's more than that. It's also a test. A test? Jake repeated. A test for what? Zara turned to face him. Her expression was serious now, her golden eyes glowing brighter. A test for you. You, Jake. You're part of something bigger than yourself. I don't know how or why, but the universe has chosen you. And it's no accident that we met. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. This was too much. He didn't understand any of it. How could the universe have chosen him? He was just a kid who stole bread because he was hungry. There was no way he was meant for some kind of bigger purpose. I don't understand, he said, shaking his head. I'm not special, I'm just trying to survive. Zara stepped closer, her voice low and earnest. That's exactly what makes you special. Survival. Your will to live, to keep going despite the odds. That's something many other beings lack. Jake stared at her, his heart racing. Was she telling the truth? Was he really part of something important? He couldn't shake the feeling that everything was changing. That somehow, the simple act of stealing bread had set him on a path he couldn't turn back from. You're not alone in this, Jake, Zara continued. I've been sent to guide you, but I can't do this alone. You'll need to trust me. And together, we'll face what's coming. Jake's mind was spinning. Trust her? How could he trust an alien who had just caught him stealing? But something in Zara's eyes, something in the way she spoke, told him he had no choice. I don't know what's coming, Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara smiled again, this time with a hint of mystery. That's why you need me. Jake nodded slowly. Maybe he didn't understand everything, but one thing was clear. His life had just become a lot more complicated, and whatever was coming, he wasn't facing it alone. The days that followed felt like a blur to Jake. Every time he tried to step back into his old life, something or someone pulled him back. Zara was always there, her presence a constant reminder that his life was no longer simple. He wasn't just a boy trying to survive in a strange alien world anymore. He was part of something far bigger. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Even in the middle of the crowded marketplace, he felt her golden eyes on him. Always, just out of sight, always just beyond the corner of his vision. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was something more. Zara's interest in him seemed deeper, like she was waiting for something. Jake didn't know what to make of it. He wanted to push her away, to keep her at arm's length. But when they were together, something strange happened. He felt safer, like the weight of the universe wasn't entirely on his shoulders. She didn't push him to be something he wasn't. She accepted him. The next time they met, it wasn't in an alley or a crowded street. It was in the middle of the night, beneath the darkened sky of the alien city. Zara appeared out of the shadows, her silhouette barely visible in the dim light of a flickering street lamp. Jake, she called softly, her voice cutting through the silence. Jake looked up, startled. Zara, what are you doing here? She stepped closer, her movements quiet and graceful, like she was part of the night itself. I've been following you, she said, her eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. I wanted to see how you were doing. Following me? Jake's heart skipped a beat. Why? Zara didn't answer right away. Instead, she tilted her head, her gaze intense. Because, Jake, I need to know if you're ready. Ready? Jake repeated, confused. Ready for what? Zara took a deep breath, as if gathering her thoughts. Ready for what's coming. You're not just an ordinary human. There's something about you, something the universe has chosen. Jake took a step back. What are you talking about? I'm just a kid trying to survive. Zara's eyes softened. No, Jake, you're much more than that. You've been chosen to play a role, a big one. And it's time you understand why. Jake didn't know whether to believe her. It was all too much, too strange. She was an alien. He was just a human. Yet the more time he spent with her, the more it felt like their paths had always been meant to cross. But that didn't make sense. He ran a hand through his messy hair, trying to process what she was saying. But I don't know anything about all this. I don't even know who or what I'm supposed to be. How am I supposed to trust you? Zara stepped forward again, closing the distance between them. Because I trust you. Jake's breath caught in his throat. He wasn't used to hearing those words. He wasn't used to anyone trusting him. Certainly not after everything he'd done. He had stolen to survive, had lied to get by, and yet here was Zara, the alien girl who had every reason to distrust. Him telling him she trusted him. I can't promise you it's going to be easy, Zara continued, but we need to stick together. I can guide you, but you have to trust me. You have to trust that what we're doing is for a reason. Jake felt the weight of her words settle into his chest. He wasn't ready for this. He didn't even understand. But the way she looked at him, the way she spoke, made him feel like maybe, just maybe, this was something worth believing in. He took a deep breath and nodded, though doubt still clung to him like a shadow. All right, he said, his voice steadying. I'll trust you, but only because I don't know what else to do. Zara smiled, the corners of her lips lifting. That's all I ask for. Trust. Together we can do what must be done. They stood there for a moment, the night air thick with the weight of what was to come. Jake didn't know exactly what he was agreeing to, but something in his gut told him this wasn't just some random meeting. This was destiny. And Zara was part of it. I'll be here, Zara said, her voice low but filled with resolve. When you're ready, I'll guide you. But first, you must face the test. The test? Jake asked, his curiosity piqued once again. Zara's eyes glowed brighter, her expression serious. Yes, the test of your will, your strength, your humanity. It's coming sooner than you think. Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled. The sky above darkened, and a strange noise filled the air. A low, echoing hum that seemed to vibrate through Jake's chest. What is that? He asked, his voice tinged with fear. Zara's eyes flashed. It's time. The test is beginning. Before Jake could react, Zara grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the shadows of the alley. They had no time to waste. Whatever was coming, it wasn't just a test. It was something bigger, something he wasn't ready for. But Zara had already made up her mind. She believed in him. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to get him through whatever was about to happen. The air had changed. It felt thick, as if the city itself were holding its breath. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. Zara had been distant the past few days, almost as if she were preparing for something, but she hadn't said a word about it. Every time Jake asked what was going on, she just smiled, but there was no reassurance in her eyes. Only that same quiet determination. And then, it happened. They were walking through the winding streets of the alien city, the glowing signs and hovering vehicles around them casting strange shadows on the walls. Jake kept his head down, trying to blend in. The people here were far more different than anything he had ever imagined, and being a human in the midst of it all made him feel small. Zara, however, moved with the grace and confidence of someone who belonged. Stay close, Zara said suddenly, her voice sharp. Jake glanced up at her, but before he could ask what was wrong, he saw it. A small group of cloaked figures moving in their direction. Their steps were eerily synchronized, their eyes hidden behind shadowed hoods. There was something about them that felt wrong, like they didn't belong to the city, like they were out of place. Zara immediately stepped in front of Jake, her posture rigid, her eyes scanning the group. Don't engage, she muttered, her voice low but firm. Stay quiet. Jake's heart raced. He'd never seen Zara like this. Her usual calm was replaced with an intensity he didn't recognize. The figures drew closer, their eyes glimmering, faintly through the shadows of their hoods. One of them stepped forward, their voice cold and commanding. Zara, you should not be here. Jake could feel the tension crackling in the air. Zara didn't flinch, but Jake could see the shift in her demeanor. She wasn't afraid, but she wasn't ready for this either. "Leave us," Zara said, her tone icy. "I don't owe you anything." The figure's lips curled into a smile, but there was no humor in it. "You misunderstand. You owe more than you realize." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in the figure's words that made him uneasy. He instinctively took a step back, moving closer to Zara. "What's going on?" he whispered, his voice shaky. Zara turned her head slightly to glance at him. Her expression softened just for a moment, but then it hardened again. "They're here to remind me of my past," she said quietly. "And yours." Jake's confusion deepened. "My past? I don't even know who I am half the time. What are you talking about?" Before Zara could answer, the cloaked figure raised a hand, and suddenly the world around them seemed to shift. The buildings, the people, the lights. Everything blurred, spinning like a whirlpool. Jake's stomach churned as if the ground was moving beneath him, and then just as quickly as it had begun, everything stopped. Jake stumbled, his head spinning. When he looked up, he realized they weren't standing in the same place anymore. The city was gone, replaced by a vast empty space, a barren desert of cracked earth and endless starless sky. "This is not real," Jake muttered, his voice thick with disbelief. "It's real enough," Zara replied quietly, her gaze fixed ahead. "This is the space between worlds, the place where all paths converge." Jake could feel his pulse racing. "What do you mean? What is this place?" The cloaked figure stepped forward again, their voice now softer, almost sorrowful. "This is where it begins, human. The moment. Your life is forever changed." Jake didn't understand. He had stolen bread to survive. He wasn't a hero or a chosen one. He was just a kid caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. And yet here he was, standing in some strange, empty desert with Zara, facing something that felt bigger than he could ever comprehend. "This is the test," Zara said, her voice low, "the one I've been trying to prepare you for. It's not just about surviving anymore, Jake. It's about your place in all of this." Jake opened his mouth to ask more, but before he could, the ground beneath them rumbled again. From the distance, something dark and massive rose from the earth, an ancient structure, towering and monolithic. It was like nothing Jake had ever seen. It seemed to hum with a strange, otherworldly energy. "That," Zara said, her voice now filled with both awe and dread, "is the test." The cloaked figure nodded. "You must face what lies within. Only then will you understand why you were chosen. Only then will you understand what you must do." Jake's heart raced. This was real. The test was real. And it was coming for them. "What do we do?" Jake asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Zara's eyes met his, and for the first time, Jake saw uncertainty in her gaze. "We face it. Together." The air around them seemed to thrum with energy, the distant structure glowing with an eerie light. Jake felt the weight of everything pressing down on him. He wasn't just a kid anymore. Whatever this test was, it was going to change everything. With a deep breath, he took a step forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead, and together, they walked toward the unknown. The ground beneath Jake's feet trembled slightly as he and Zara approached the towering structure in the distance. The eerie hum of the ancient building vibrated through the air, sending chills up his spine. The path was dark, lined with sharp, jagged rocks that seemed to pulse with a strange energy. With each step, the weight of what they were about to face pressed down on him more heavily. Zara walked ahead, her silver hair glowing faintly in the darkness. She seemed unaffected by the growing tension, her face set in a mask of calm determination. Jake couldn't say the same for himself. His thoughts raced. This was no longer just about survival. The test had come for him, for them both, and he had no idea what awaited them inside that imposing structure. He had been following Zara blindly, trusting her, but now, as they reached the entrance, doubt gnawed at him. "Are you sure about this?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. His breath came in shallow bursts as the weight of their situation sank in. Zara didn't turn to face him immediately, but after a moment, She spoke softly. We don't have a choice, Jake. This is the only way. If you're going to understand what's happening, if you're going to understand who you really are, we need to face this together. Jake stared at her. Something in her voice made him feel like she knew more than she was telling him. She had always been the calm, collected one guiding him through each step. But this time there was an edge to her words, an edge of fear that she hadn't shown before. I don't get it, Jake said, his hands trembling as he ran them through his messy hair. What's inside that thing? What am I supposed to do? I don't even know why I'm here. Zara's golden eyes flickered with something deeper than understanding. You're here because you're the key. You were always meant to be the key, Jake. But understanding that means confronting everything about yourself that you've been running from. Jake's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean, everything I've been running from? I've never run from anything. Zara's voice softened and she finally turned to face him. Her expression was different now. There was no coldness, no distance, only raw emotion. You may not realize it, but you've been running your whole life. Running from who you are, running from your power, running from the truth about what you can become. Jake's eyes widened. What was she talking about? His whole life had been about survival, about getting by, one day at a time. There had been no time for anything else. No time for power. No time for understanding. But now, with Zara standing before him, he was starting to feel like maybe, just maybe, there was something bigger to this. I'm just a kid, he whispered, almost to himself. I'm nothing special. Zara stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. The touch was warm, grounding him in a way he didn't expect. You're wrong, Jake. You're more than you think you are. You've always been more, and now it's time to face that truth. Before Jake could respond, the ground rumbled again, louder this time, and a deep, echoing sound filled the air. The structure before them began to glow, the lines of energy, tracing up its ancient surface. The doors slowly creaked open, revealing a dark interior, shrouded in mystery. Zara's hand tightened on his shoulder, but her gaze never wavered from the entrance. This is where everything changes, she said. Once we step inside, there's no turning back. Jake's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to hesitate, to question, but something deep inside him told him Zara was right. This was his path now, and whatever came next, he would face it, together. As they stepped forward, the door slammed shut behind them, sealing them inside. The air inside was thick, heavy with the energy of 1,000 lifetimes. It felt like time itself had stopped, the silence oppressive. Jake's skin prickled as he looked around, trying to make sense of the shifting shadows. I don't like this, Jake muttered, his voice trembling as he stepped further into the unknown. This place feels wrong. Zara's voice came softly from behind him. It's not wrong, Jake. It's just different. It's ancient. As they moved deeper into the structure, the air grew colder and strange symbols began to glow on the walls, swirling and shifting like living creatures. They seemed to pulse with an energy Jake could feel deep in his bones. It was overwhelming. It was beautiful. And it was terrifying. Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked, and a low rumbling sound echoed throughout the space. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter and the temperature dropped even further. It was as though the entire structure was coming to life. Get ready, Zara said, her voice low but urgent. This is it. This is the test. Jake took a deep breath, his hand clenching at his side. He didn't know what was going to happen next, but one thing was clear. Whatever was inside this place, whatever was waiting for him, he couldn't face it alone. Zara was by his side, and for the first time he understood what she meant. They weren't just allies in this strange alien world. They were something more. They were bound by something that transcended the barriers of their worlds. And no matter what came next, Jake knew one thing for certain. He wouldn't face it without her. The ground shook again and the walls around them shifted, opening to reveal a vast chamber in the center of the structure. Inside, glowing, shifting lights swirled around an ancient pedestal. Atop the pedestal was a small, unassuming object. Zara's eyes locked onto the pedestal. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the answer. Jake took one step forward, his heart racing. He didn't know what this was or what it would mean for his future, but he knew he was about to learn something that would change everything. The air inside the ancient chamber felt alive, charged with energy, as if the very walls were watching them. Jake's heart beat louder in his chest with every step he took toward the pedestal in the center of the room. The lights swirled around, the pedestal, flickering like distant stars in the night sky. The object atop the pedestal was small, seemingly insignificant, but something about it felt heavy, like it was the key to everything. Beside him, Zara's breathing was steady, but her grip on her weapons was tight as though she too felt the weight of the moment. The quiet hum of the chamber filled the space almost like a warning, an echo of something ancient and powerful. Jake glanced at her, confusion still swirling in his mind. He didn't understand any of this. What was this object? Why was it so important? And why was Zara so insistent that he face it? He opened his mouth to speak, but Zara beat him to it. "This is the moment, Jake," she said softly. "The moment that will define everything." Jake's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, define everything? What does that even mean?" Zara's expression softened, and for the first time, in a long while, her gaze was vulnerable. "This object, this power, it's not just about what you can do, it's about what you're willing to do." Jake stared at her. "Willing to do? I don't even know what's going on here, Zara. I didn't ask for any of this. I'm just a kid trying to get by." Zara stepped closer, her golden eyes locking with his. "You've always been more than that, Jake. And right now you have to decide if you're willing to sacrifice everything to protect what matters." The words hit Jake harder than he expected. What could he possibly have to sacrifice? He didn't know what was waiting for him on the other side of this test, but how could he sacrifice something he didn't even know he had? He opened his mouth to protest, but before he could speak, a deep, echoing sound vibrated through the chamber. The pedestal began to glow brighter, the swirling lights spinning faster, and suddenly the ground beneath them rumbled. "Zara," Jake gasped, his voice tinged with panic. "What's happening?" Zara's face was etched with both fear and resolve. "It's starting. We have no time. You need to make the choice, Jake. You have to take it." "What do I have to take?" Jake shouted, his frustration growing. The pressure was unbearable, and for the first time he was beginning to doubt everything Zara had told him. Was this really all part of some grand plan, or was he simply a pawn in a game he didn't understand? "The object," Zara said urgently, her voice rising. "You have to take it, or everything we've done, everything we've fought for, will be destroyed." Jake's eyes darted from Zara to the pedestal and his breath caught in his throat. The object was now pulsating with an energy that seemed to draw him in, pulling at the very core of his being. It was a simple, unassuming stone, but as it hummed in time with the vibrations of the chamber, Jake could feel the immense power it held. It was calling to him, but he still didn't understand. What did it mean? Why was he the one chosen for this? Why not Zara? Why not someone stronger, someone more prepared for whatever this was? Zara reached out, her fingers brushing against his arm. "Jake, please, trust me. Trust what you feel." Jake pulled away slightly, looking at her. There was fear in her eyes now, something raw, something he had never seen in her before. "I don't know if I can do this," he whispered, his voice shaking. "You don't have a choice," Zara said, her tone soft yet firm. "This isn't about what you think you can handle. It's about what you're willing to give up. This is your destiny, Jake. It's your time to choose." He looked at her, seeing the vulnerability in her eyes. She wasn't just asking him to take the object. She was asking him to take on the burden of the future, of their world, of everything they had been fighting for. The weight of her trust in him was almost suffocating. He could feel it now, the pressure of the moment, the weight of 1,000 choices all leading to this one point. Zara's trust, the world's fate, and his own future all depended on him making the right choice. Without another word, Jake reached forward. His hand hovered above the object, the energy around it practically crackling with power. He hesitated. For a moment, the doubt still gnawing at him, but then, with a deep breath, he closed his fingers around it. The moment his hand touched the stone, everything changed. A flash of light exploded from the pedestal, blinding him for a split second. His body jerked back, as if he had been struck by a surge of raw energy. The force was overwhelming, like something was being pulled from deep inside him. He gasped, his heart racing as the energy poured through him, filling every corner of his being. And then, the world around him began to shift. The chamber around them seemed to warp, the walls distorting, the air warping with a high-pitched hum. Jake stumbled, his legs giving out beneath him, and he collapsed to the ground. The stone in his hand burned with an intensity that made his skin feel like it was on fire. Zara was there in an instant, kneeling beside him. Her face was filled with concern but also awe. "You did it," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You've unlocked it. The power. It's inside you now." Jake's vision blurred as the energy continued to pulse through him, but there was one thing he could clearly see: Zara's face. And as much as he wanted to understand what was happening, he knew one thing for sure. The choice he had just made wasn't just about survival. It was about something far more complicated. And in that moment, Jake realized the true cost of what he had just done. Jake's body ached, the energy still coursing through him like wildfire. It had been days since he had taken the stone, since he had unlocked the power that surged inside him. The light from the pedestal had faded, but the power it had awakened within him was far from gone. It hummed beneath his skin, in his blood, in every fiber of his being. And with it, a new awareness, a connection to something greater, something ancient. But despite the power, despite the knowledge that now filled him, Jake felt empty. Zara had disappeared after the surge, leaving him alone in the chamber, unsure of where to go next. The weight of the world felt heavy on his shoulders. He had made the choice, but now he had no idea what to do with it. The echoes of the chamber still rang in his ears, the memories of the test haunting him. The object, the pedestal, the power, it had all led to this, and yet Jake didn't feel victorious. He felt lost. He stood up shakily, his legs unsteady beneath him. His breath came in shallow gasps as he stepped forward, out of the darkened room and into the vast space beyond. The air was cool against his skin, but it did little to calm the storm inside him. Where was Zara? What had happened to her after the surge? Was this power supposed to make him stronger, or had it just torn everything apart? And then, in the distance, he saw her. Zara stood in the doorway of the chamber, her silhouette bathed in the soft glow of the fading light. She hadn't left. She had been waiting for him. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Jake's heart skipped. A beat, and everything he had been feeling, confusion, fear, doubt, faded away, replaced by something far simpler. A deep, aching need for her to be there, to explain what was happening, to help him make sense of it all. "Zara." Jake breathed, his voice hoarse with emotion. She didn't move at first, but then her eyes softened and she stepped forward, her eyes locking with his. "You've done it, Jake," she said quietly, her voice carrying a weight that only he could understand. "You've unlocked what was hidden inside you." "I don't feel like I've unlocked anything," Jake said, his voice cracking. "I feel like I've lost everything. The power, the test. I don't even know who I am anymore." Zara's gaze never wavered. She walked up to him, and for a long moment she didn't speak. Instead, she placed her hand gently on his chest, where his heart beat erratically. The warmth of her touch was grounding, a small comfort in the whirlwind of emotions that raged inside him. "You've unlocked more than power," Zara said softly. "You've unlocked yourself, the real you, and with that comes a choice." "Oh, choice only you can make." Jake's brow furrowed. "A choice? What choice? I don't even know what I'm supposed to do with all this." Zara's eyes glimmered with something deeper, something ancient, yet full of hope. "The power you unlocked wasn't just to change the world, Jake. It was to change you. to help you become who you're meant to be. But with that power comes responsibility. The world you're stepping into now isn't the same as the one you left behind. Jake swallowed hard. He had never felt so small, so overwhelmed. The weight of the universe seemed to settle onto his shoulders all at once. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want from me? What am I supposed to do?" Zara stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "You have to choose, Jake. You can walk away from this, pretend you never unlocked the power and live a life in hiding. You could let it go, just as you've always done. Or..." Her voice trailed off, her gaze intense. "Or you can embrace it. Use it to change everything, but that means embracing who you truly are. Embracing your place in this world and the next." Jake stared at her, his chest tightening. It was as though the very ground beneath him was shifting. The world he knew was slipping away, and in its place was something entirely new. Something unfamiliar, something dangerous. "You're asking me to make a choice," Jake said slowly, almost to himself. "A choice that could change everything. But how do I know I'm ready for it? How do I know I can carry this burden?" Zara's face softened, her golden eyes filled with a tenderness that made his heart ache. "I believe in you, Jake. I've always believed in you. You have the strength to carry this. But you have to decide for yourself. You can't keep running from it." Jake's mind raced. He had never been someone to make big decisions, he had just done what he needed to survive. But now Zara was giving him a choice, one that could change everything. He looked at her, his heart pounding in his chest. The doubt was still there, but it was overshadowed by something else, a flicker of understanding. He didn't need to have all the answers right now. He didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to move forward. "I don't know what comes next," Jake said, his voice steady now, though his heart still raced. "But I'll face it. I'll face it with you." Zara's eyes sparkled, and for the first time in a long while, her lips curled into a full, genuine smile. "Then let's face it together, Jake." And in that moment, Jake knew. This wasn't the end of his journey. It was only the beginning. With Zara by his side, he would face whatever came next, no matter how uncertain, no matter how dangerous. The power, the choice, the sacrifice, it all led here to this moment. Together they would face the future.